Hi, welcome everyone to another edition of Poetry Goes Viral. I'm so excited to have everybody here with us tonight. We have another really exciting lineup. I'm very excited about this group of poets that we're going to be sharing tonight. I'm just going to take a few minutes just to kind of introduce what we've been doing at Carolina Poets, introduce the poets, and give everybody a chance to jump online. Some of you may be watching from our Facebook page. We are broadcasting currently on Wits and Poetry Facebook. We are on Carolina Poets Facebook, but we're also broadcasting on our YouTube channel, Carolina Poets. So if you have a smart TV, you can actually sit on your couch, turn on the YouTube app, and watch us directly on your television, which is a great little feature. My name is Kimberly Sims, and I am the founder of Carolina Poets. And along with Andrew K. Clark, who is in Asheville, North Carolina, and myself, who's in Greenville, South Carolina, we curate the show. We're now just doing it every second Thursday and every fourth Thursday at 7 o'clock. So we'll be back again in February. And we basically focus on 3 poets every week who have connections to the Carolinas. Tonight we have with us, we have Caleb Beissert, and we have Rich Ferguson, and we have James Nave. And I just realized I should have asked Caleb how to pronounce his last name because I think I may have murdered it a little bit, but we will bring him on shortly and he can correct me on that because it's a beautiful French last name. But we are going to have each poet read. They're going to do about 15 minutes. And then if you actually have any questions, you can actually comment below the broadcast and we can bring those questions up at the end. Also, all of our poets tonight do have, some of them have books for sale. Some of them have, new work coming out in magazines and run various wonderful events. So they're going to be sharing all those poetry opportunities with you tonight as well. And we will throw those links into the comment section as well. So, looks like we have a great crowd getting started with us tonight. So we're going to go ahead and get going with our first poet, Caleb. Caleb is a poet, translator, musician, and freelance writer from Washington, D.C., living in Asheville, North Carolina. He is the director of the Asheville Poetry Open Mic, and he's an active member of the Asheville Poetry community. His work has appeared in International Poetry Review, Tar River Poetry, Asheville Poetry Review, WNC Magazine, and Beatitude. His first book is a selection of English language adaptations of the poetry of Pablo Neruda and Federico García Lorca. Beautiful translations from the Spanish, was published by the New Native Press in 2013. He is originally from Washington, D.C. He's a freelance writer. And we're just so excited to have Caleb with us tonight. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on so he can correct me on all the things I just probably said wrong. Caleb, how are you?
I'm great, so Kimberly. Good to see you.
We were having our little talk before this, and I meant to get a pronunciation of the last name, and I just got so excited I forgot.
Oh, no problem. It's a particularly tricky. You're almost right. It's Beissert. It's French German though. So yeah.
Okay. I was like, there's a European thing going on. Well, Caleb Beissert, I'm very excited to have you here. The last time I saw you, our roles were reversed.
Right.
Because I was on the Asheville Poetry Open Mic a few minutes back.
Absolutely. Poetry Open Mic Asheville. Yeah. And we do that every Wednesday night at 8:30.
And that is a great show. Y'all do a feature poet, and then people can sign up to read their own poetry, right?
Absolutely.
It's so fun. Awesome. Well, listen, I'm going to step backstage, and I'm just excited because normally you're just introducing everybody else. So it's going to be such a treat to actually just to get to focus on your work tonight.
Well, thank you. It's really fun. Yeah, the tables have turned.
Okay, well, I will see you back here in a few minutes.
All right. Thanks, Kimberly. And thank you, Carolina Poets. It's great to be here, and I just have to say what an honor it is to read with Rich and Nave. Of course, Nave and I know we go way back in that Asheville poetry scene together. Of course, he farther than I am, but it's an honor to be reading with y'all. All right, here's some poems. Forest Elegy Number 1. My friend told me of the 30-year-old owl whose tree died and had to be cut down. And inside the hollow of the tree, they found over 300 cat collars. Blinking my eyes and seeing the future. This is some of the Charlotte folks may know this place. I can see the regulars turning into chickens as I stand in line. Not really a line here. You just make your way to the front when you know what you want, dodging elbows. A mirror window on the wall by a door, a gizzard dinner for $6 with a white Merita roll, slaw and hush puppies, enough grease to run a charter bus, the way they like it in the South, born into it. The cashier's from Fayetteville. No cards, no change. Extra tater salad, 60 cents. Sweet iced tea, $1.25. Man in full pinstripe suit, a large gold ring on his pinky. Customers greeted by name. Behind the mirror glass is a man with a shotgun. The people go in and out at Price's fried chicken coop. The food is like mainlining God in styrofoam boxes. In the back, they hack up the chickens. This is a found poem called Tattoo Room. Tattoo room for rent, behind Denny's on Patton. Tattoo room for rent, or could possibly do commission-based pay. Must have own equipment and be able to get health department inspection. Give us a call. Ask for Dale or Jerry. Thanks. Tomorrow's seed. Old sands are yesterday bones. White fleet of trucks hum on a freeway. Nobody has time. Today is scrambled eggs, newspapers, good coffee. The dog takes no interest in pigeons, but she chases the squirrels because they run. Turn up a guitar and play your name to me on its strings. Build a sculpture out of my bones in a surrealist style, as Bob Kaufman would if he sculpted with human bones in air. I would buy all his masterpieces, sitting unnoticed at the flea market. Time pulls a fast one on us. I'm lost in its darkness, shade of unreality, blowing through leaves as tomorrow's seed catches on fresh dew. I want to do this poem because Nave gave me some really great comments on this once. This is an old poem of mine, but I feel like it's a bit relevant, and that this talks about another time that somebody carried out an act of violence at the suggestion of politicians, basically. This is called Tucson Massacre. This is after an LA Times article that described Jared Loeffner's behavior in a poetry class. Jared Loeffner took poetry class in school. It was so poetic, the way those bullets hovered, nearly still in midair. So poetic, as a bullet slid into the congresswoman's frontal lobe just above her left eyebrow where her mother once put a goodnight kiss. So poetic, the way the bullet committed larceny on her left hemisphere and now the moon burns her skin. So poetic, the way Randy Gardner seized up with a flashback to May 4th, 1970, more than 40 years ago, when he threw himself to the ground in a blur of 10 soldiers' bullets cutting down his classmates in Ohio. His first thought, they're shooting at us again. So poetic. Christina Green, born into a world too violent for her to change, for her trembling voice to have any sway in it, for her tiny hands and fingers to plant fresh hope, numbness, nothing but numbness now. So poetic. As Dorwin Stoddard buckled into his wife, who heard only the festivity of firecrackers, not yet knowing she had been shot too, shot through the benevolent maintenance ministry they once lived. So poetic. How the Morrises walked through their whole lives side by side and were traveling the country in a motor home that day as it rained little holy saviors. So poetic. Roll and Schneck and Zimmerman going limp before the sounds of gunfire ever registered in their ears. Jared went to school, where he took poetry class, where he spoke, and his classmates imagined him bringing automatic guns into class and going down a list. They saw it. They all saw it coming. How did your poems go, Jared? Surely they weren't meant to be like this. And this is a newer poem called Everywhere. I look from my little hillside of earth. I can see the hospital where people are dying and recovering from the virus. Tonight is a quiet blue lake for a Friday. No cars, no helicopter slicing sky. No drunks scream from the street, but the screaming is unbearable. Timepiece. A quartz crystal collects sunlight in a window. Winter was almost forgotten, but now the trees bear red and orange leaves. On Wall Street, the people gather as the traders and thieves walk by. Moments slip past on poison watches. The elders once gifted us stories. Forest Elegy, number 2. Last night, while you were dreaming, the wildcat saw an owl rise from the bushes in front of me, struggling with rabbit to the hollow tree, to the quiet of the blue moon night with its power lines and steeples. This is called Library of Wind. The walls here are made of poetry, and once you can read them, you'll see through the spaces between the words. Even full pages are mostly empty space, as the crystal vase is defined by its emptiness, which allows it to hold water and flowers, twisted sticks, or the unfilled air. Can a vase hold thoughts? Can it hold an idea like humility or grace? Can it hold emotion like surprise or love? Is a human body the same, made mostly of water, even in the empty space of lungs, of stomach, of open mouth that forms words, vibrating from that space, made full by it, as a drum or saxophone makes sound by way of absence? We are what we are not. We are the everything and the nothing. We're the nothing that is everything. That's a new one I'm working on. Thanks for letting me air some stuff out tonight. I've got I got two more poems here, and y'all stay tuned. There's some really great poets coming up, and if you want to hear more of my work, check me out at calebbeissert.net. That's calebbeissert.net. CALEBBISSERT.net. This is. Did I throw it on the floor? Sure did. This is called Present. The dog points her ears at the moon. A full moon. In Leo, rising through trees and snow clouds, dark blue evening sky full of action, weeping blankets on highways in the little town of houses with yellow windows. I pass the time as best I can, from one horizon to the other. We sit together in silence, saying everything we needed. Now the silence does all the talking. It is the sound of knowing we are safe for one moment. It is the sound of knowing our presence is enough. It is the sound of the wind and the empty bus going by. It is the sound that the dog hears when nothing else stirs. All right. I'm going to do this one, and I'll leave you with a quick Lorca translation here. I think I'm doing okay on time. This is called Sign. The anxious opiate addict, 10 days sober, keeps asking to play the piano, undeterred that the answer is always no. He's just asking if he can play the piano. It had a sign on it that said to ask the bartender before playing it. He just wants to play it for a few minutes. Is it cool if he just plays it for a few minutes? He's just asking. We're really just trying to close up, man. But he just wants to play it for a few minutes. So is it cool if he just plays for a few minutes? He's just asking, though he knows how to play. He'll play it really good just for a few minutes. He's just asking if he can play the piano just a few minutes. Piano, is it cool? Piano, a few minutes. He's asking, piano, minutes. Piano, piano, he's just asking, piano, minutes. Piano, he's just asking, piano, minutes. Piano, piano, he's just asking if he can just play the piano for a few minutes. He really needs to get something out. Song of the Withered Orange Tree. Woodcutter, cut down my shadow. Save me from the torment of seeing myself fruitless. Why was I born among mirrors? The day turns over me, and the night copies me fully in all its stars. I want to live without seeing myself. And ants and thistledown. I will dream that you are my leaves and my birds. Woodcutter, cut down my shadow. Save me from the torment of seeing myself fruitless.
That was great, Caleb.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you so much. I want to ask you, I could sit here and ask you 1,000 questions right now, but we have other authors to get to. I'm like, oh, I want to ask all these things, but we're going to bring you back up.
We can talk later.
We'll bring you back up at the end. I'm not letting you off the hook. But I did post a link to your website so that people can learn more about you. And of course, they can always go, what is the Facebook page for the Wednesday night event?
Poetry Open Mic AVL.
Okay, Poetry Open Mic AVL.
You'll find it.
I think one of the great things about, I think having all these virtual events have come out of the pandemic has kind of been something I think we'll end up keeping because it's a great way that you can be wherever, you can be in Charlotte and go to the Asheville Open Mic now.
Right.
Which is so fun.
That's been one of the joys of it, is now seeing, we've had people from all over the world, Morocco and UK and places like that join in, and it's just fabulous. And we still have the Asheville regulars, but now everyone can join in, and that's really been a great silver lining. And I think that's reason enough to continue.
Absolutely.
Expand the community. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Well, listen, I'm going to put you backstage and we're going to bring you back up at the game. But thank you again, because that was like really amazing. We'll see you back in a few. Well, awesome. Please give a virtual round of applause one more time for Caleb. That was really great. Caleb Beissert, I think I've got the name right now. So thank you for being patient with me on that. Definitely go and check out his work on his website. I'm super excited to bring up as well our next poet. This is a poet I was not familiar with, but he is a native of North Carolina. He still has family across the Carolinas. Rich Ferguson is now in the state of California, and he is actually the state of California Beat Poet Laureate, which I think is the most fabulous title I've ever heard in the poetry world, and I think that is amazing. His poetry and award-winning spoken word music videos have been widely anthologized. I just lost my thing there. Has been widely anthologized. He is the author of the poetry collection Eighth and Agony, which is from the Punk Hostage Press. He's the author of the novel New Jersey Me from Rare Bird Books. Ferguson's newest collection of poetry is Everything is Radiant Between the Hates, and it will be published in, actually, I guess this month. So I don't know if we'll get a little preview of that. But anyways, we are super excited to have Rich Ferguson here with us tonight. He has many more credits that I've not even mentioned. Please give a virtual round of applause for Rich Ferguson. Hi, Rich.
Hey, Kimberly. Thanks for having me. And Caleb, that was amazing. I need to check out your reading at some point. Asheville's a place that I've always wanted to visit in person, so I could at least visit it virtually now.
Yeah, you can at least go virtually. Now, do you have a book? Is your book coming out this month or?
No, yeah, it's actually out right now. In fact, what I'm going to be reading tonight is from Everything is Radiant Between the Hates.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. And that is just an amazing title. Amazing title.
Thank you.
So thank you. Well, I'm going to leave you to it because I don't want to use up your time, but we're so excited to have you here. Cool. And we'll jump back on at the end. And then hopefully, I think all the poets tonight are going to have a lot of what I call resonance. So I think we'll have a great little discussion at the end too. Well, great. Everyone give it up for Rich Ferguson.
Thanks. A worry bead, a blessing. From the deep blues of my mother's belly, I wailed my way to birthright. I was branded with a name passed down through 10 generations of midnight. My mother cradled me in her arms, whispered in my ear. She told me I've been born into a world of bombs and birdsong, shackles and happy hours, saints and slaughterhouses. She told me we humans are the bold electricity of kisses and screams stuffed with the latest headlines. We are correctly tied shoelaces and busted hinges, healed wounds and broken mirrors. And my mother wrung 10 sad songs from the ghost in me and handed me over to a brass-knuckled moon. It pummeled me to sleep with a busted lip lullaby. In dreamland, I didn't count fleeting sheep, just heavy bruises. As I grew, my optimism became a consequence of my wishbone ribcage. Some days those ribs have broken to the side of good fortune. Other days I've been left wailing my birth-given blues nightly. I shed my weighty shadow beneath a hanging tree nightly. I count the stars in the night sky, each one a worry bead, each one a blessing. When called in for questioning, when asked about the scars around your lips, tell them you were speaking peace in a shattered glass world. When asked about employment, say you are a wound collector on the broken frontier. As for where you reside, tell them your heart is equidistant from joy and suffering, the now and never, the sweet flower and the Hiroshima cloud. Regarding why you say the things you say, tell them the full moon is in your mouth. When asked about the ghost behind your eyes, say you occasionally spend too much time thinking about who you are to become rather than whom you are supposed to be. As for why some leave the world too soon, tell them death's reflexes are sometimes quicker than prayer. Certain days feel so heavy, like that final weight pallbearers carry to the grave, yet say the correct password, and the moon will allow you into its secret room behind the shine. That's where good luck wears the scent of new laundry behind its ears, where our brightest essence illuminates dark waters. The clock tells me when it claps its hands, I can open my eyes. It's when I'll be older than I remember and younger than I care to forget. Should you see me holding something to the light, it's a letter I meant to send to you before all these troubles left their shadows at our door. In the Gomorrah of glamour and gimme all you can. This is for Wanda Coleman. Life is one long madness in the Gomorrah of glamour and gimme all you can. We, the living, wander between absolute truths and the delusions of cap-teeth, vacant odd Madonnas, flashing fistfuls of nirvana-less dollars. Ballistic spiritualists and CIA operatives disguised as holy prophets stand on street corners shouting machinated missives, a perpetuation of purposeless paranoia and preambles of pandemonium, while media-hungry whores whose body temples have been desecrated by gods of addiction trick their souls. Off another toke from the cash pipe, yeah. One suck can bring 15 minutes of fame or a sudden OD on vanity. Life is one long crash and burn in the Gomorrah of glamour and gimme all you can. Our aggressions, obsessions, denials, and denigrations build the cornerstone of our planned obsolescence, crying out to the world, expecting echoes of salvation, yet only receiving long, unforgivable silences. Trying to shake off all the insults and innuendos nailed to our bones, bellyfuls of brutalities and betrayals acquired over a lifetime, fattened up on fatalism, while myopic optimism stumbles blindly down the boulevard of extremely bad behavior. Where rapists, tailgaters, drug pushers, pedophiles, stalkers, insomniacs, crash addicts, and detritus riders on the storm of prefabricated love, suffering the PTSD of junkyard LSD, rain down disease and need on a saviorless city of angels where, buried underground, one can find more serial killer corpses than new sources of water, yeah. Sometimes the only thing that can quench the thirst is bloodlust. Life is one long sadness in the Gomorrah of glamour and gimme all you can. Not even tigers can guard this landscape of fading ease. What once were wings are now only clipped eclipses in fancy clothes. No sympathy or healing tea leaf readings. Only barbed wire and indignation as pain and suffering slip through the cracks like smoke cloud mirrors that can no longer look us in the eye. It's so quarrelsome are these days, packing brass-knuckled troubles, jacked up on limited visions of what were once so brightly promised tomorrows, while in defense, we stand armed with only aerosol cans of I think I can, downgraded to no how, no way. No how, no way. Yeah, every moment the future looks dimmer, life is cheap. As for death, if by chance there's rebirth, it'll only be available to witness on a limited basis through pay-per-view. Everything is radiant. between the hates. Days booby-trapped with animosity reeking of gunpowder's acrid bite. When the heavy, bass-heavy beat of police brutality makes it so you can't breathe, and kids begin the school year with face masks and bulletproof backpacks, when homegrown terrorists keep getting younger and bullet speech keeps getting louder and louder, when those who perish from shootings, beatings, lynchings, overdose, and disease are reduced to body bag hashtags on social media. Yeah, so heavy these days when chaos holds sway and pallbearers bear the weight of still another coffin across the worn, cobbled streets of our eyes. In between it all, moments of grace, a kind word, a shared kiss, offering a child tender stick phrases such as please and thank you to illuminate their journey forward. Here, contentment is revealed. Everything is radiant between the hates. Blueprint for a better world. Cars will run on poems, prayers, and the courage of sojourner truth, all guns and assault weapons transformed into high-powered Pez dispensers. The NRA has changed its name to the NEA. Birdhouses will be built atop gravestones, gardens planted in the hearts of the lonely, lightning bug halos for everyone. Earthquakes, tornadoes, and tsunamis take anger management classes. Dogs and cats call a lasting truce. Rainbows donate their colors to the severely depressed. There'll be a cross-fertilization of dreams, free speech, and the almighty dollar, a new currency we can exchange through lip lock. In Utopia's dance hall, we'll be non-stop bump and grind music, an exhilarating, hectic electric flowing through our veins. When we touch radios, light bulbs, guitar amps, they will come alive. There'll be dependable road signs along the highways of our minds. Clarity and foresight will be dressed in easy-to-spot polka dot blazers placed at every entrance and exit ramp. To ambivalence and obscurity, all mirrors will reflect our inner beauty, our sweet-cheeked, moon-eyed, push-button perfection. The very air we breathe will never be used against us in the court of life. All our burdens and regrets, paragraphs of scattered thoughts, we will edit one another down until we are naked and radiant, our glowing bones, the blueprint for a better world. I'm going to just check my time real quick, just make sure I'm good. All right, I have one more to go. One with the world, one with yourself. Be one with the world, one with yourself. One with the tranquility gallery behind your eyes, its humble paintings of peace and prosperity. One with how that gallery is so often under reconstruction, deconstruction. One with how everything is so impermanent, so fleeting, how your every thought breeds Frankensteins and angels. Be one with all your Frankensteins and angels. Be one with being wide awake with everyday magic, the abracadabra of glorious allegory written into your every step. Be one with the forward and backward of all your human steps. How in every positive action, seeds of limitation find their way to fruition. Be one with the bitter fruit of not always getting what you want. May that bitterness help your successes taste all the sweeter. Be one with money, clean money, blood money, funny money, one with the hard work you offer as daily sacrifice to the 9-to-5 grind, one with all the con artists, sham shamans, and common thugs, all those constantly wanting to take a bite out of your wallet, your pocketbook, your higher consciousness and life. Be one with these terrorist times, how glittering guns are the new silver spoon given to newborns, how bombs can be so readily made from common household products strapped to the waist of suicide junkies, or packed into vehicles and driven to your doorstep. Be one with the song of napalm encoded into your DNA, the inherent and self-annihilating dirge of burn, baby, burn. Be one with our climate changing, severe weather patterns, hurricanes, blinding heat, polar ice caps melting into water, so much water. Be one with all waters, flood waters, baptismal waters, life-giving, life-taking waters. Be one with how something so clean and pure as water can be both womb and tomb. Be one with being somebody, nobody, one with how you can write your name 10,000 times across the chalkboard sky, yet still never claim the heavens as your own. Better to share the sun, moon, and stars. Better to see your lover's face when you stare deeply into the cosmic mirror. Be one with societies, diamonds, the lost souls, lunatics, restless romantics, and the like. One with how you all yearn to shine so bright, how you thread flesh and blood through durable needles, sewing yourselves into the fabric of life, staying close to the lines of reality, but often straying to dream. Be one with your inner child. All the paper airplanes he or she creates. Be one with your inner TSA agent when he wants to check your emotional baggage and perform cavity searches before you take off on those paper airplanes to great flights of imagination. Know your inner TSA agent's ultimate job is to ensure a safe flight, but always know that sometimes the safest flights aren't always the best flights. Be one with your inner TSA agent, one with your inner child and all the paper airplanes. Be one with the sailing away. Be one with traveling down your inner and outer highways, one with the treasures they may reveal along the way. Be one with traffic, the slow drivers and road rage drivers, one with your cities, boozers and beauties, the deities and needy, lost souls, restless romantics, dancing beneath a peroxide blonde moon, accompanied by the music of mockingbirds and apocalypse jukeboxes. As coyote radar surfs the airwaves, searching out the perfect kill, the perfect thrill, penned in blood and written across the first and last breath of all things. Be one with the first and last breath of all things. Be one with the tick-tock ticking of the clock, the hands of time that hold you for only a moment, then move on. Be one with how no moment in time shall ever be repeated the same way twice. Be one with how you are a different person from one moment to the next. You slough dead skin cells, dead hair, fingernails and toenails growing, thoughts changing, the molecular structures creating you, both living and dying at the same time. Be one with how your body and being will eventually fail you, one with the day when you'll become a stranger to everyone and yourself. Be one with death. Death of family, friends, loved ones, pet death, great big overwhelming universe death. Be one with the final, everlasting, great big bang of it all. Be one with the grass on your future grave. May it be filled with 1,000,000 volts of goodness and green. May it offer a home to insects and other wildlife. May it welcome and bear the weight of those who pass over you. May the grass on your future grave be drunk on sunspeak and rise and shine. May it witness the world with eyes of all seeing bright. May it pray to the saint of rain. Be one with the world, one with yourself. One with the rich man with slums running through his veins, one with the beggar possessing a cathedral heart. Be one with your Frankensteins and angels, the boozers and beauties, deities and needy, lost souls, restless romantics, Republicans, Democrats, shamans, bombs, hurricanes, pain. Be one with that tick-tock ticking of the great big bang of it all clock. Send them all loving and luminous messages through the dark and dead of night, tight on the telegraph keys of your heart. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Rich. And that one line about the chalkboard night sky, I was like, I mean, there's so many great lines in there. Wow. And we have shared the link to your book. So if people are
Cool.
interested, they can definitely check out that link. It just came out. So definitely support Rich, support poetry, and pick up some books while you're here tonight. Rich, thank you again. And we will bring you back up at the end. Awesome. Wow. Two great poets so far. And I'm very excited to bring up James Nave. I have known James. I mean, it's like my whole poetry life. I feel like I've known James Nave, actually. But James Nave holds an MFA in poetry from Vermont College, Fine Arts. He has a BA in International Relations from UNCA. His latest book of poems, 100 Days, will be published by A Chaos Press in 2021. So also a great book coming out. His other books include The Road and Looking at Light. He's originally from Asheville, North Carolina. He's the Leaf Festival Poetry Slam Master and the Taos Poetry Festival Director. You can learn more about Nave at jamesnave.com. I was actually talking to Nave. I'm going to bring him on here. Hi, how are you?
Hi there, Kimberly. Thank you so much for inviting me, and hats off to Rich and Caleb blessing us.
Yes, absolutely. I was so funny.
Appreciate that.
When we were speaking on the phone the other week, and the 1997 Nationals came up, and you were hosting finals. I think that was one of the first times I met you, but that was my first National Poetry Slam. And I didn't realize we were both there at that one. So I think it's so funny how there's so many of us old slammers that are still doing poetry, but maybe doing it in a little bit different way, but still also supporting Poetry Slam, because it's a great, it's also a great, way to celebrate poetry.
Yeah, that was the 1997 National Poetry Slam Championships held in Middletown, Connecticut, produced by Faith Vincenanza. And the night you remember was the night of the semifinals, and I was hosting a bout that included the Mouth Almighty team, which was run by Taylor Molly, and I think García was on that team, and a couple of other people.
Powerhouses. Well, we're excited to have you here because you're quite a powerhouse yourself. You have just done such an amazing job of mentoring poets, and also just have beautiful poems yourself. So I'm really excited to hear these poems from your new book, and of course, some of your other poems as well.
Well, thank you, Kimberly. So shall we begin?
Yes, I'm going to step backstage.
You're going to step backstage. Okay, come back soon. Come back in the present whenever that happens. So for those of you listening out there, thank you so much for taking your time out of the evening to be with us. We really appreciate that. And your listening is really a pleasure to have as part of this. We couldn't do it without you, obviously. What I would like to do this evening is just carry you through a few of my written pieces, and it strikes me we're on the road now in a way that we've never been before. The COVID-19 and the pandemic and all the brouhaha that we've experienced, we've been retired in a way, and now we're somewhere else, and we're all thinking about, well, what to do next. And I'd like to just tip my hat to Amanda Gorman, because when she was on stage at the Biden celebration, she really gave us a gift. The whole country got the gift of poetry from a fantastic young poet who seemed to be ageless. So with the idea of travel and the road in mind, I'll take a little time just to give you a few lines from my work, beginning with a poem I wrote years ago because I was traveling a lot. Not traveling now. I'm at the end of the road in Taos, New Mexico, actually 12 miles outside of town. There's lots of snow on the ground. It's very cold, southern Rockies. And I'm on 8 acres of land. It's a alfalfa field. And in the summer, a guy named Ernie harvests the alfalfa for his cows. So I'll begin with the poem I wrote, titled, appropriately enough, The Road. So the road is in love with me. She comes turning out of my childhood, moving through my morning, interrupting my picnic. The road taps when I'm asleep, like a kitten wishfully waiting for the door to open. I'm always dreaming of the road, or at least I used to be, So I'll say now, I'm always dreaming of the road. As a young man, I stood beside her and I watched as she stretched in the summer afternoon, so concrete, so eternal. As a boy, the road carried me past my school with its oak wooden floors and wide eastern views, carried me past my church, so small now, inadequate steeple, stained glass windows, carried me past gardens with corn so high, I'm sure it only grew to give the wind a place to go, carried me past my father's blows and my mother's easy words, carried me away from home into the night and the next morning and the next night and the next year and stretching cycles of years until I'm right here before you on this screen, breathing and alive. The road is in love with me. And thinking about that kind of movement, and the road can be something that you travel on, or it can be in your imagination. Along the lands of the air sweeping dreams, the wind returns again and again from the wilds of the known in the distant trees, where shiny red hair mixes with bees. The clouds above and the earth below, along the rivers that always flow beyond where you are standing, past what seems, will redeem your dreams when your breath floats high in the crow-wide sky. On this good day, travel alone with little thought for what you own, walk with yourself through the perfumed sage, or go to the shore where the curlews play, and you can too, for a moment or so until the wind tells you it's time to go to who you are, to what you know, to where you soar, near or far, on the red-headed wind in your sky of bees. I think it was a winter before last. A friend of mine and I were in Silo, North Carolina, and we walked up a steep, brambly Appalachian road to a knoll, which overlooked a ravine which sloped to a creek headed down valley from the numerous springs on the hills above. Below the roofline, someone had nailed new boards to the cabin's side. Evergreens and what was left of the front yard curved from the shaping of the wind, absent, while I stood by the porch in the warm afternoon sun. The chimney. There's nothing much left of the chimney, my friend said. I think the mud daubers are the only thing holding it together. The post under the porch leaned into the hillside. The roof was rusty. I'll bet people will think this place is beautiful in the springtime. I think it's beautiful right now. What about the springtime? Oh yes, it is beautiful in the springtime, my friend said. We waited around the cabin for about an hour, and then we walked back down the dirt road along an old fence line. 3 crows watched us from the trees. A few dogs barked. The western sun settled above the Appalachian Ridge. And now I'd like to take you west on I-40 through Memphis, across the Mississippi, after you pass through Knoxville, coming out of Asheville, and then Nashville, and then Memphis, crossing that big Mississippi into Arkansas, Little Rock, on to Oklahoma City, Tucumcari, New Mexico, and you cut north across to the mountains, and then over those mountains into Taos, New Mexico, where every Memorial Day weekend, hundreds of Harleys invade. The bikers, mostly men with gray in their beards, their hair pushed back, boots propped above power-stoking engines, lean into the warm air, never noticing how their shadows ripple across fence posts, barbed wire, and no trespassing signs. And then, still staying in Taos, about a week or so ago, no, it was a couple of months ago, during COVID, I was driving south, of Taos, out of Taos, and a road sign warned bighorn sheep. I scanned the land for wildlife. Nothing moved but my borrowed Mini Cooper, gliding 60 miles an hour, sunroof pushback, scent of sage in the air, Janis Joplin on the radio. I downshifted for the curves, and I started thinking about the first time I heard Janis Joplin cover Me and Bobby McGee. You know, I always thought when Janis said she let him slip away, she meant he left her for another woman, or he hoboed to Seattle because he loved the rails more than he loved her, or he just plain turned mean and robbed a bank. Well, now I know better. Bobby died, and he did it in the arms of a woman that loved him. An hour after I got to Santa Fe, I noticed a young married couple ordering sandwiches at the takeout of the Aztec Cafe. They touched each other while they waited. The air was clean and dry. A few white clouds floated in the egg blue sky. And now let's travel to New York, where 10 years ago, I was living on 29th Street. And one day, my friend Paul Pasquarella, who was trout fishing in southern Colorado, called me. And I answered, and with my mobile to my ear, I went down 6 flights of stairs. I crossed the lobby, stepped out onto 29th Street behind a young couple headed west between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. Paul said, "Nave, I want to tell you about how to release a trout into a fast-moving stream." So here's what I did. With wet hands, I took her to the shallows. I held her gently in the easy flow. I moved her back and forth, nose to tail, until 3 bubbles of air emerged and she regained her strength, until finally, as if she were my own child, I released her. The couple turned south down 3rd Avenue, talking about theater and what they plan to do later. You know, in any big city, anywhere in the world, it's possible to fall out of the sky and splash into the water, the river, the sea, and nobody will notice you. Who wants that? Everybody knows that there's juice in giving yourself over to your swagger, your dazzle, your sword-swallowing, fire-breathing days under the big top where trapeze artists soar and circus lights blaze. And when you're finished with that circus and you leave the big top, carry yourself to the shallows. Step in, lower yourself gently into the easy flow. Move yourself back and forth, head to toe, until 3 bubbles of air emerge and you regain your strength. Until finally, as if you were your own child, release yourself back into the unreachable depths and velocity of the breaching stream. And I will close with that. We're getting close to the top of our hour. If you'd like,
that was beautiful.
yeah, glad you liked it. And if anybody would like to reach me, Nave at jamesnave.com. Nave is spelled Nave. I'd love to hear from you. What's going on in your poetry field or in your field in general? It's all poetic at the end of the day. Just ask the bluebirds.
Wonderful. Awesome. And I put your link so everybody can click on it if they want to learn more. When do you think your book is going to come out, or did it just come out?
I'm going to submit it in a couple of weeks. I've done all the revisions, and so I don't have to submit it. I have to turn the revisions back in.
Turn your gallon back in.
Yeah. And it's titled The 100 Days. And it's a book that I actually wrote 10 years ago after having prostate surgery. And I woke up from the surgery, and it was April 1st, Poetry Month, write 30 poems in 30 days. I thought, I don't have anything else better to do. I'm recovering from surgery. So I wrote the first poem, and it went on for 30 days, and then it continued on for 100 days. And the poem about the motorcycle is in there, and then the poem about the going to Santa Fe is in there. And I wrote it in Santa Fe, I wrote it in Asheville, and then I came to Taos, and then I went to New York. So I spent the 100 days in those 3 different locations. And the idea behind the book is to not so much talk about my recovery, or to talk about how I'm a cancer survivor. I really got lucky with prostate cancer. All of the men out there listening, please pay attention to your health. And if you catch things early, especially with your prostate, which belongs to the male side of the species, then you can save yourself if you pay attention. And that's also true for all of us. Pay attention to the health, and right now more than ever, if you can catch these things early, you really can do something with them. So the book is about how I healed and what was happening to me day to day. And when it comes out, we hope that it'll be an inspiration for, anybody trying to heal from anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to bring Caleb and Rich back on here. So I'm going to bring Caleb on first, and now I'm bringing Rich, and look, there we go. We're all on here.
It's like the poetry version of the Brady Bunch or something.
Well, this has been great. And I think one of the things I really enjoyed tonight was the fact there was this kind of little bit like philosophical thread that went through all of your poetry. And I don't know if that's something that you go into poetry with a certain kind of message, or if it's something that you're writing your feelings and then you're like, oh, wow, there's this kind of theme here. I don't know if y'all wanted to kind of talk about your relationship to just kind of life philosophy a little bit.
Well, I can start by just saying to people who are listening, which is, I think, important, because so often people tune in and they're thinking, well, maybe I'd like to do this too. So if you are out there thinking that, it's very possible. All you need is a pen and a piece of paper, which I have some around on my desk, and you can just start generating your material. And as far as the themes that come out, those themes will naturally emerge when you start to work with the material you're working with. And wherever you are is exactly where you need to start. And to try to copy me or Rich or Caleb or Kimberly or anybody else, that's a great idea. But know that at the core of what you're doing, you sit at the center of the wool nest that we all dwell in, that soft wool nest of stories and poetry and gifts.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Rich, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to piggyback something that James said, because that's kind of what was going through my mind. Like sometimes some of the themes or whatever that come through my work sort of naturally emerge. I mean, maybe there are times where I write something going into it with a conscious idea of like, I want to address this, but other times, as James said so eloquently, a lot of things will just sort of emerge naturally. And I think that's sort of the best thing. I think sometimes when I go into a poem and I'm getting up on my soapbox, like trying to make a big message, usually it falls flat. And like the best ideas just sort of flow out naturally. And Caleb, I just wanted to give a virtual high five to you for calling out Bob Kaufman in one of your poems. I love Bob Kaufman, so thanks for that.
Yes. Of course, the Beat Poet Laureate would pick up on that. But, Kaufman was a huge influence on me as well. I loved his work and that whole San Francisco scene. Great stuff. And I would add that I think most poems end up being philosophical in a way. I mean, a lot of poems are the study of wisdom, the study of thinking, or have to do with that. I don't know if that's something I consciously set out to do. But one thing that influenced me a lot was Robert Bly's idea of leaping poetry and kind of jumping from different places in the mind, like starting with the natural and then jumping to the supernatural, and it's sort of that leap that sort of takes our thoughts on a journey. sometimes. If
I love
I
that.
understand that correctly.
And another thing I'd like to just build on with this, when you're thinking about writing your poetry, allow yourself to, or give yourself permission to nod in the direction of your natural poetic inclinations, and try to avoid being poetic and trying to make a really big proper poem, and just let the poetics inside of you emerge out of it, and it will naturally take form as it goes along, because we are creatures of imagination and we're creatures of form. There's a great line by Charles Wright. It says, "What is it inside your imagination that keeps surprising you at odd moments when something is given back you didn't know you had in solitude, spontaneously, and with great joy? You didn't know you had, and yet we have it." So trust yourselves to that you have all you need to say what you need to say in the voice that's always belonged to you.
James, I love how you have that wonderful repertoire of memorized poems by other people. I just think that is just so lovely that you have all these wonderful quotes at your fingertips.
Yeah, 600 or so, I think maybe quite a lot.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, and that's
James,
I mean,
he
No, I
memorizes
can't-
stuff like amazing, and I think that's correct me if I'm wrong, but that's sort of becomes part of the writing. The memorization process can become part of the writing and the editing process as well.
Yes, it does. And I don't remember all 600, but I probably do have 200 up to speed. I mean, I could pull a lot out. Memorization,
Let's go.
folks. Well, let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient eat the rest upon a table. Let us go through half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights and one-night cheap hotels and sawdust restaurants and oyster shells. Streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent that leads you to an overwhelming question. Do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit. The yellow smoke that, I'll stop there.
there you go. T.S. Eliot, awesome.
What I wanted to say, when you were
But I
thinking of
digress.
I digress. Do I dare eat a peach? Do I part my hair behind? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I've heard the mermaids singing each to each. I do not think they'll sing to me. I've seen them riding seaward on the waves, coming the white hair of the waves blown back when the wind blows the water white and black. I've lingered in the chambers of the sea with sea girls, reeds, and seaweed red and brown till human voices wake us and we drowned. That's the last part.
I think that's great about having other people's poetry memorized for me, because I have some poems memorized myself. And I think it's something people used to do a long time ago that people don't do anymore, is that when you're kind of I find if I'm like emotionally stressed or I'm in a very stressful situation, that I can recite that poems in my head and it will kind of calm me down a little bit.
Right. And
not
what
even
I
my own
wanted,
poetry, just other, like having some other things. It's like becomes like a mantra.
and go ahead. Sorry, I missed.
No,
I was going to say, what's really important for people to remember when they're memorizing. I rolled off T.S. Eliot's That Was the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock because I practiced it for 2 years. I've been practicing that poem for a long, long, long time. It took me almost a year to memorize it and get it down so it was inside of me. So this isn't something I did overnight. Here's the way to memorize. Take 1 or 2 lines or 5 lines of something that you cherish and spend an entire week just communing with it. 5 lines. Don't try to get too big or go too far, and experience what those lines do with your psychology as you slowly take them in, and avoid putting a clock on it. Just let it happen. And it's
Absolutely.
only for you. And then if someone says, can you give it to me as a gift? Then maybe you give it to them as a gift, but it's something you take in for yourself. Learn by heart.
Yes. Speaking of memorization, because when I perform, I usually, I don't have papers. I just put it up here, but I've been working on memorizing a longer poem recently, and something that I find works really well for me, in addition to what you were saying, James, is that I will often chunk parts of my poem and let it live in a certain part of my body. Like I will maybe have a certain hand gesture that signify that will physically launch me into a certain part of the poem, and I get it so ingrained to my body and my mind, my heart, and my body that I can that it becomes muscle memory, so that my body knows that I do this next, and in doing that, it signals my brain to go to the next part of the poem, and then this gesture follows another gesture, which then connects to the next part in the poem. So that's another really good
I'm
thing.
Smiling. I did the same thing, Rich. That is actually, I love that, because using that muscle memory to help you memorize things. That's something I teach when I work in schools. I teach kids to use a emotion to pull that section of the poem out.
And it also informs us what you said, Rich. It reminds us all to remember we are working with our entire bodies. Our bodies are the instrument we have to work with, and the head is only one part of it. And I said, well, you learn by heart, but really, Rich, you actually lifted up the idea. You don't learn by heart or by head. You learn by heart, head, and the whole body. The whole body learns it, and you can, and maybe half the poem is in the big toe, and the other half's in the arm. You know, you don't know where it goes. Maybe it moves around too.
Yeah.
Now, Caleb. I was just going to say, Caleb, because you do some singer-songwriter stuff too, don't you, with music? Did I make that up?
No. I do. I often perform poetry with musicians, and I am a musician myself, and perform a little bit, mainly percussion. But yes, I do a little bit of that.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to bring up one more thing before I let you guys kind of get out of here. And one of the reasons I like to have the three of y'all together is that all of you guys walk in kind of and have some performance pieces, but you also have some pieces that live in like a published world. And I think there's definitely some people that only write kind of poetry for the page, and some people that just do it for the stage. But I think there's more and more people they write a poem and say, okay, this poem fits more with being performed, or this poem fits more with sending to a certain magazine. I just wondered if y'all could maybe speak on your relationship between the page and the stage.
Well, for me personally, they're sort of one and the same. I mean, I try to write poems that live both on the page and in the air, so to speak, and you know, I do see how some poems maybe are more better suited for one venue or the other, but for me, I mean, poetry was always an oral tradition before it was written down. So to me, good poetry is works both on the stage and on the page. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I mean, I agree with you. I think for myself, when I write certain things, I kind of I'll look at a certain thing and I think, you know what, I think that's better suited for the page. It just has a certain elegance about it that I think would live better on a page. It would look better on a page than I could recite it, but I think it would actually have more impact on the page. Whereas there are certain pieces I write there, it's like, oh, this is definitely a live piece. And then there are times where I'll write pieces and kind of surprise myself, and I say, oh, actually, I think these live in both worlds. I think, you know, this will be a really good performance piece, and actually, I think this could stand up on the page as well.
Mm.
So my thoughts are similar to both Caleb and Rich, and I think we're talking about delivery systems here when we're talking about page and stage. Mm. So you have the page, which is the book that you read, or you have the page, which is something you write on. Then you have the spoken word aspects of it. And so those delivery systems change, or you can augment your work to fit those different kinds of delivery systems. Then there's the radio. And then there's the delivery system like we're having here. This is a very different delivery system than a live show. Mm. And you can also take and the performance of a poem, you know, I know some people, they could read the bloody phone book and it sounds great. So you can almost perform anything. So when you're thinking about how you want to get your work out, the best way to discover what will work for you is to experiment with all of those delivery systems And when it feels good and it feels happy, as Rich said, well, I like it on the page. It looks more elegant. Well, leave it on the page. And then next year come along and say, well, maybe I'll take that elegance and transfer it to another form. I'm memorizing a poem in French now by Jacques Prévert called Barbara. And it's quite a long poem. And I'm just doing it for the fun of it. And it's definitely a page poem. But then I've been listening to the French interpretations and they put it to music. So they've turned it into a song. And I know that the Dead Poets, Alan Wolfe and a couple of other fellows.
The Dead Poets.
They took the classic things like Emily Dickinson's I'm Nobody and The Road Not Taken and some of these other really classic page poems and turned them into musical songs.
They're so fun too.
They really are. Yeah.
I think I may have seen them. I think they have played at Leaf before, maybe a bookstore. But
they've been around. They're not doing it much now.
They're so fun.
Alan, Tom, and Alex, Alfred. So the delivery systems are available to all of us, and there are more of them now than ever.
Absolutely. And I think too, sometimes people forget that, like, performance poetry, like you were saying, Caleb, it's not a new thing. We have the Beat generation. And then if you go even further back, you find poets like Ogden Nash and other kind of traditional, we are now traditional poets, but at the time, even Carl Sandburg had this very lyrical, out loud element to him.
Well, and even way back when, I mean, people used to earn money by going around and reciting poems to people. They didn't even write necessarily; they just recite poems because books were very expensive.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, and
definitely
poetry's been around long before books too. So
absolutely. Speaking of books, I hope that people will go online and purchase the books that are available from these fabulous authors. We've put some links in the comment section. Please, support our authors because during the pandemic, it's definitely been tougher for everyone to get out. There's not been the bookstore readings and all that great stuff. But thank you everybody for joining us. I think we better wrap up before, I could literally sit here all night and talk to y'all, but and I know we all could, but we better let the audience leave eventually. At least we don't have them trapped in a room like at a live reading where they can't get out,
Yeah.
But thank you, audience, for joining us. This is Carolina Poets. If you just joined the reading, this will be archived on both of our Facebook pages and also our YouTube channel. Please go to our YouTube channel and like and subscribe to it because that way you'll get notified when we put out new content. We're getting ready to start maybe some workshop series and some new exciting things. So definitely make sure that you subscribe so you can get all those notifications. And thank you again to James Nave and Rich Ferguson and Caleb Beissert. Is that right?
It's Beissert.
Beissert. And your dad corrected me. He's watching. So Caleb Beissert, thank you again. Y'all have a fabulous night. We're signing off. Poetry is life. I appreciate you all. See you soon.